Okay, we can start.
All right. Call this staff review to order. First item on the agenda tonight is going to be the conditional use permit for the gate. Any questions of staff on that item?
Quick question, if I can. Sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Please, Mr. McKnight.
For staff, just in general, I'm looking at that gate and 20 feet back. Does that fit? The question I have for staff is, have they walked the grounds and have they taken a look at it? Because it didn't seem like it would fit in the space designed.
It's actually, it's 25 feet on the plans, which is what's required. That's what they'll have to measure off from the roadway pavement. That's our minimum requirement. I did have the fire marshal review, and he's satisfied with the location.
I just driven by the property a couple of times, and it looks like it's going to be back in their circular drive to be back 20 feet, but I could be wrong. So, okay.
Yes, sir.
Mr. White.
It seems that to make it childproof, they're going to need a fence around. Will we need to be discussing the fence at any time around the property?
Well, a fence would be a separate permit. That staff would make sure it's in compliance with our standard fence regulations.
Just a thought, obviously.
Yeah, they have already applied for a fence permit. Since it is on a major roadway, they are allowed to have it in the front yard, and that has been approved. They should be installing that soon.
Okay, thank you.
Further questions or discussion on item 1? Okay. Next on the agenda will be we've got actually 2 items, item 2 and 3. So I guess we will vote on them separately, but we're going to discuss them together. We've got the amended site development plan and the conditional use permit. Questions on 2 and 3?
Just an observation, and I will ask for Ryan to comment since he was physically at the site today, but give us an appreciation for the vegetation separation between the proposed pavilion site and the adjacent home.
There's a significant tree line that runs the entire length of the property that's quite robust this time of year, and it's several hundred feet. I don't have the exact number to the nearest adjacent home. Actually, I should probably measure that before the meeting, but it's definitely several hundred feet. So it's not an imposing structure that's in immediate adjacency to any residential.
Good, that's helpful perspective.
Similar question, has anybody spoken to the folks on, I think it's Revere, which is that street, which is behind there?
I've not reached out to anyone. I don't, that would be a question of the applicant or the representative. Laura, have we got any calls from Revere?
Yes, I have received one phone call from a gentleman that lives on Revere. He was unable to find the plans online, so I sent them to him, and he has not followed up with me.
And we had a late, or not a late, but you should have all received the letter from Moog Center adjacent. They're in full support of this pavilion.
And this is noticed up as a public hearing, so everybody within 300 feet did receive a notice, including City Hall, which I forgot to take off the mailing list.
Chairman.
Go ahead. Mr. Bolzino.
Yeah, I know there's no requirement of the applicant to submit drawings that are signed by a licensed architect or engineer, but I just curious about the process that when this does go through, that we do get at least a seal of an engineer and architect on the building?
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay. All right.
Yes, that is a requirement from our code official.
Mr. White,
Are we not considering the detention pond in this final plan as well?
That would, yeah, you could consider it as part of the amended site plan approval. They're doing that per the requirements of MSD. So they have a separate permit under review by MSD. MSD is requiring them to make modifications to that as part of the expansion in the impervious area for the pavilion.
Mhm.
But they're meeting, you know, they're going to have to meet all of the requirements of MSD, and we're going to require them to show that they've been approved as part of their permit.
Is that a condition, one of your conditions that is like, that the MSD be in there?
No, someone can certainly make that that motion to add that condition.
anything else on 2 or 3?
So Ryan, what would you call that? Would it be approval by MSD, or what is the, what kind of language do you want there?
I would say something to the effect of that the modifications to the bioretention area receive approval from MSD prior to the issuance of any building permits.
All right, thank you.
Question, Mr. Chairman.
Go
So
ahead.
just on this process, so the process would be that we need to decide whether this is proposed amendment is significant or not significant. And then a public hearing would ensue if it was significant.
Correct.
Okay. And that public, just to be clear, that public hearing would cover both of these, or would it just cover the site plan change?
It's site plan.
Okay.
The conditional use permit will be at the Board of Aldermen meeting. The public hearing for that.
Public hearing, okay. Does staff have a leaning on whether this is significant as far as the site plan goes or not?
Well, the few instances where we've said it's insignificant have, in my experience here, have all been sports related. The lacrosse wall, I think we said, was insignificant, and then the billboard for Maryville baseball, I want to say, was insignificant. All other instances, I think we've said are significant and therefore had the public hearing. So for consistency's sake, it's a 1,000 square foot structure.
Yeah,
they're making a modification, so I would say it's significant to at least have the public hearing.
Do we know if there were any conditions on the original site plan that we would need to know about?
I did not see any specific conditions in my review beyond the generic ones that we normally have. I can certainly reinvestigate that as well prior to the Board of Aldermen.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, when we have to make a decision whether something is significant, I guess it would be helpful if we knew what was said when the original site plan was approved, and whether there were any conditions that we thought bordered on something that they agreed to already in their first site plan submittal.
Right. It's significant in my view just because of the size of the structure. In terms of the overall site, we're not really impacting green space. We're still 84%, well above 75. Building coverage is 2%. with a max of 11 allowed. So that's fairly insignificant, and parking isn't impacted where they have more than enough parking. So the overall site it's insignificant to the overall site, but it is a large structure. I mean, 1,200 square feet is a large structure.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Alderman Whitmire.
is it relevant that not only is it a large structure, but it's associated with a large institution versus a home or whatever? Is that relevant in this case? Since it's in suburban estate?
As to whether it's significant or not?
Correct.
That would be a question for the commission. I would say in general, we have leaned in the direction of just declaring these significant because it allows for the public hearing and any concerned members of the public to speak. That's kind of the way it's gone in the past, but maybe it looks like our city attorney may want to weigh in on this.
You know, Mr. Chairman, what I was going to say is there isn't really any hard and fast rules, but I think based on the questions about, you know, things to consider whether it's significant or not, I would err on the side of finding it significant, particularly since we're ready to have the public hearing and everything's been noticed. So without making a recommendation about what you all should decide because it's within your purview, I think based on the questions I'm hearing, that seems to be the way that you're leaning.
Anything else on agenda item 2 or agenda item 3? Okay, agenda item 4 is the zoning text amendment on invasive species. Any questions of staff? Mr. McKnight.
I guess the question I'd ask, which is kind of obvious, is how did we not have this before? I mean, I think this is a pretty logical thing to want to put in there to say if we're going to do tell people they can put plantings in, they should be planting non-invasive species. And I guess the other question is, are there other things? So is this part of a review, Ryan, that you guys are doing of different code and things that might be missed or some kind of obvious things that it should be there? Or
there was an instance of planting at a subdivision in town, and you know, there was a concern that Bradford pears were being installed. They're listed as Cleveland pears, and there's a difference, Cleveland and Bradford pears. But the point being that Bradford pears are an invasive species, and we shouldn't be allowing plants such as that are listed by the state of Missouri as invasive to be as part of landscaping installed per permit. So at the direction of the Board of Aldermen, I looked at the most efficient way we could cover, you know, instances of new construction with housing, commercial institutions, subdivisions, and then tree replacement obligations. So I've proposed 3 amendments, and I think it's the most efficient, streamlined way to do that, which is basically as part of a plant unit definition, we state unequivocally that any plants listed by Missouri Department of Conservation are prohibited from being included. And that covers us across the board in every zoning district where plant units are cited. And then in terms of our recommended tree list under the preservation requirements, we also have a statement about any trees listed as invasive by Department of Conservation are prohibited. So if you take down some trees as part of a woodlands activity, the replacement trees have to be, you know, native species. They can't be invasive. And then in the subdivision section 410, there's a landscaping subparagraph, and I added an item D to basically say that as part of any subdivision landscaping plan, no invasive species as listed by Missouri Department of Conservation. So if Missouri Department updates their list, we're covered. We don't just have a singular list that may become outdated or need to be updated in the future. And I think these 3 instances cover us across the gamut of permit activity. You know, that's a whole other question if you want to regulate what John Q. Citizen does on their existing property. That's different. That's more of a nuisance item, and that I think that's extremely hard to regulate and control. But when permits are involved, it's much easier to follow through and ensure compliance.
Yeah, actually, I was going to congratulate you because this is, an ingenious way to kind of build it in. So I think it's a really good job that you've done here. The one question I did have about it, when they ask, is there a specific place that you would direct them to the Missouri Department of Conservation to list those species that cannot be, that are on the list? So you have a website or something you can direct them to?
Yes, it's very easy to find and search on the website. Yes.
Good.
So,
Mr. Bolzino?
yes, and I think it is important because if we had public attending our meetings, I think the question would be asked, are you going to keep me from planting what I want to plant? And the answer would be no. This legislation doesn't address an individual's ideas about what they think an appropriate plant is for their own lot. And I don't think we should go there. So I think this is a good compromise on at least plantings that would be larger in scope, having to do with subdivisions and replantings. I think this is a good way to go.
Great.
Mr. White?
I just have a couple of items which stood out to me from the original wording. On Amendment 2, I would put, if I was writing it, I would put all inclusive, not while not inclusive. So in other words, it would read the following list of trees while not all inclusive.
Where are we?
Sorry, Amendment 2, first line.
Ryan, I think there's a list actually that extends, doesn't it?
Well, I'm
Yeah,
talking
that's my
about
attempt not to print
there's a
out all
difference between
the
inclusive
verbiage.
and all exclusive, all inclusive. But I'll let someone else wordsmith that, but it just seems strange to me. What do you think, Mr. Attorney?
Yeah, I mean, I think you could add the word "or" to make clear that it's not. I think it's. I think the normal word that would be used would be exhaustive. Would that be? Ryan, I think you're trying to get at right that this list isn't necessarily intended to be everything. So I guess I'm changing inclusive to exhaustive.
And the other item is in Amendment 3. I'm just going to ask Ryan, no plantings or structures. Is structures covered anywhere else? Obviously, we don't want structures to obscure the entrance.
Where are you reading this? What?
Amendment 3, first line of A. No planting or structure. Obviously, we're talking about plantings here, but is structure covered anywhere else?
I mean, that's existing language that's been in place for 35
I know.
years. I don't structure. No planting.
Well, this is under the landscaping section, so if we want to deal with structures.
I think I'd have trouble trying to mix that under landscaping to include structures. It would be confusing. So, but an interesting question whether structures are covered somewhere else.
Well, it would be covered under our sign code where we talk about slight triangles and because that's really what this is about, the entrance monuments and so forth. So like Will said, this is just the landscaping section, so that's why it just refers to planting.
So we're comfortable not mentioning structures. Okay.
Well,
I am. Yeah.
Structures are governed by setbacks.
Right.
So, setbacks, I think, cover what we want to do here.
Yeah.
Or it'd be a conditional use permit.
We don't need it here.
Do note we'll have findings on agenda item 4, so we'll ask for a motion on those when the time comes. Anything else on number 4?
Okay.
All right. Other business tonight. We will have an election of officers. It looks like. And any questions on the election?
Do we have nominations?
I assume we will have nominations. And then,
Volunteer.
and then item 2 under other business, we have rules and procedures. Ryan, what's that's related to your memo about the city engineer?
Yeah, I felt it, since that change was made, it seemed like a good time to revisit the rules and procedures and make those small changes. So yeah, we eliminated the city engineer position, so that's reflected now in this update, with 10 voting members versus the 11 previously. I updated the title from planning director to city planner, since we don't have a planning director. An alternative could be city administrator or their designee. I leave that up to you. And then the conflict of interest section, there were lots of updates. So I just recently, I updated where that's found in the municipal code, chapter 120, code of ethics, just so that it's current and correct. But obviously, if there's other changes that may jump out at the membership, this is a good time to maybe discuss that.
Chairman.
Mr. Wolzini?
So do we have a city planner? Are you the city planner?
I'm the city planner, yes.
Okay.
It's me.
So
Look at that. It even says Ryan Spencer, city planner on his.
All right.
his
Okay.
title there.
So that I think that position was called something else before you
It's
arrived.
like director of planning or something.
Director
like
of
that.
planning or
Yeah.
something. Yeah, right. So is that what we want to go with? The city planner? I mean, is that what you want to be?
That's what's
what I
on
want.
his,
Yeah,
that's what's on
Okay.
his
I
business
got
card.
the
so.
degrees and everything.
All right, good, good. All right.
Those aren't any, those aren't real.
That's good.
So we will actually have a vote on this. We'll have a motion to approve the rules and procedures. And
They're your rules and procedures of how we operate.
okay. Anything else for staff? Will we have anything from the Board of Aldermen, Alderman Whitmire?
So do you normally get a report back on the matters that were considered by P and Z and taken to the board? So you want me to close that loop and kind of
just
review
close
what's
the loop.
happening?
Anything that we have sent along to the board, any recommendations that we've made, if let us know how the vote went. If the vote went a way that's different than the way we voted, typically you'd come back with just the discussion. So what we'll hear is well, the board really honed in on these 3 issues, and here's the way that they voted.
Okay.
Sometimes we're still waiting. We haven't got to item XYZ. So just an update for us.
Okay.
And if I might add, if there's anything being discussed at the Board of Aldermen that you think might appear at the Planning and Zoning Commission level, like some suggestions for legislative changes, we'd like to know about that.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah. So you might have come a couple of months ago and said the invasive species is headed your way.
Right.
Yep.
I mean,
Yep.
total surprise. Right.
Yep. Okay.
Okay. Great. Will you have anything for us this evening?
Yes. So yeah,
Okay. Perfect.
I'll try and be brief. Hopefully not too brief.
That's our favorite kind of report from the Board of Aldermen, is the brief.
Ooh. Okay. I'm good at that.
Unless it's spiced with jokes.
I'm not a good joke teller.
All right, we see we have 6 minutes, so we will adjourn and we will reconvene on the other Zoom link in 6 minutes.
Okay.
Laura,
Yes.
can you
Did you
email
get my special note?
I didn't. Maybe I missed it.
The
I was going to
finding?
have you email me the findings because I misplaced my copy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I put a copy in your packet, I thought.
Oh,
I thought it might have been the first page.
well, would it be in the email?
No,
That would have been gone out to everybody, right?
yeah. Yeah, I made a copy of your special
Yeah,
form for you.
probably misplaced it somewhere. I thought I had it in my photos, but I haven't found it yet.
I'm sorry.
Well, I'll figure it out.
You're gonna have to wing it.
I don't even think I have the uncorrected copy.
Yeah, if you want to go over it real quick, I can tell you what would be for and what would be against.
I don't have the uncorrected one though to read. Did that come?
I thought Ryan normally includes, oh yeah, it's right at the bottom of the memo. It's
Is it in